All right, so I am out in Pescadero. Beautiful but breezy day here. I'm gonna paint some old farm buildings. So I'm thinking of doing this scene right here. I like this shadow in the foreground. I am gonna lose the shadow on this side of the building right here, so I'm gonna get started and work as quickly as possible. All right, I'll be painting with my usual limited palette: titanium white, cadmium yellow medium, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and phthalo blue green shade, using liquid original as my medium, odorless mineral spirits in a brush washer, and natural bristle flats number 8 and number 6. Sketching in burnt sienna, I've just thinned the burnt sienna with a bit of odorless mineral spirits. All right, striking a line just above the center line. I'm gonna have trees over here. And let's see, the barn is gonna be coming out maybe like this. And it comes down like that. And then there's the shadow from this tree, which sort of comes like this. I just wanna lay out the shapes and see if I like the arrangement. After I get the shapes mapped out here, then I can sort of determine if I want to move things around or if I want to proceed. But I do like the basic outline here. There are some dark trees in the distance here, and then mountains even further in the distance. So I'm gonna artificially lighten these up, but I do want the trees in the foreground to be fairly dark, and I want to make sure that these dark shapes over here add to the composition. I feel like I want the barn to come out a little bit further, maybe like this. All right, for the shadow portion of the barn, I'm using ultramarine blue, titanium white, some alizarin crimson, and a touch of burnt sienna. And I'm keeping the value to a mid-tone value. I'm using my palette as a gauge since I'm in full sunlight. It's hard to determine values, but I know that my palette is a mid-tone gray, so I'm using that as a gauge. And I'm just gonna quickly sketch this in. I will be looking for warms and cools within the barn shapes, but I do want to establish this value pattern here. So let's shadow right along here as well. The barn is also crooked. It's sort of falling down. It's part of the reason I want to paint it, is because I'm not sure how much longer it's going to be here actually. Now what I want to make sure is that the value of the side of the barn here is dark enough so that it stands out against the light of the roof. I'm also going to have to make sure that the sky is dark enough that the light of the roof stands out. All right, for my darkest dark, I'm using alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and a touch of burnt sienna. There's not actually a window up here, but I do like the idea of adding something in that area. And there's a few missing boards right here that almost look like a door. I'm noticing that this portion of the roof and this are about the same angle. It's so important to back up when painting, especially when painting architecture, just to make sure that you're getting the proportions correct. There's some shadow shapes here. Obviously, I can do whatever I want with these shadows as far as shapes go. I can use them compositionally in whatever way I think works best. I'm going to try to leave some areas unpainted, suggesting light. I've got a dark green mixture here using ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow medium, and a touch of alizarin crimson. All right, I've lost the shadows in this area, but I'm going to just paint in these dark bits of weeds or whatever from memory. All right, I feel like I want to bring down this line just a little bit. All right, I've added a bit of blue to the mixture here. I feel like I need more titanium white. to push this back further. Because I want to make sure that this portion of the roof reads as a bright white. So, but I want to push this back as far as I can, so, or lighten it up as much as I can, and still have the contrast between the rooftop and these distant hills. All right, so I'm mixing in a little bit of titanium white right onto the panel here to push these hills back and see how that looks. I'm happy with that contrast. Little area here I forgot to paint. All right, for the sky, I've got a mixture of titanium white, ultramarine blue, and phthalo blue green shade. I want to make sure that the color of the sky is different from the color that's in the shadow here. So I've added the phthalo to it to push it to more of a sky blue color. I'm also paying attention to the light, the feeling of light. As painters, on a sunny day especially, I think one of the things that we're most attracted to is trying to paint a convincing feeling of light. There's some areas of grass that appear to be sort of darker and maybe dead. And then other areas where it's warmer. It's more yellow. Some of that color over here as well. They added a bit of yellow and titanium white to the mixture for the lighter, warmer passages. All right, so there's gravel in this area that is a little bit cooler in temperature. So dragging a bit of the shadow mixture into the mix. And I still do want to keep this mixture warm enough that it looks like it's in light. My gloves are squeaking. I don't know if you can hear that. All right, now I'm using some thicker shadow mixture here to define these shapes a little bit. I want to make sure that I keep this painting feeling loose, even though there's a structure. Now that's something that's challenging to do. I find that when I'm painting a structure, I can get too careful. So I don't want to do that. So I might just leave this like this, or try to, you know, where there's areas of transparency. I'm at a point where I want my finished paintings to look like exploratory sketches and just call them finished. When the Impressionists first started showing their work, the critics said that it was unfinished, that it looked unfinished. But as artists, they knew that they said what they wanted to say, and they stood by it. All right, now I want to reinforce some of the darks. You can see this brush is a pretty big brush for the job, but that's what's going to keep me from getting too careful. I feel like I want this just a bit darker. Not much though. All right, and just like that, the fog came in. So I'm going to keep working from memory. I think I lightened these distant hills too much, so I'm going to darken them a bit. Sort of a blue-green mixture here. I think that's better. At this point, I'm not really adding more detail. I'm more focusing on adjusting color and value, still keeping the big shapes in mind, which is to me the most important thing. As I've said, the composition being king. Okay, I need to work on these trees. These trees obviously need to be darker. Sometimes I don't mind when the fog blows in after I've got the basic information down, just because it's actually very comfortable to paint in overcast, provided it's not too windy, which it is actually getting kind of windy. All right, so I want this tree to be darker. It's not quite the right color, but we'll start off with the value and then adjust the color. All right, I'm experimenting with lightening the sky right over these trees, and then I'll have more ultramarine up top, and I'm using thicker paint at this point, so I'm using less medium, so I'm using less liquid. Okay, that's kind of an awkward sky hole there, but I do want more openings in these trees. All right, I'm putting titanium white with a touch of cadmium yellow medium just to lighten this area up even a bit more. All right, adding warmer greens in here to suggest light on some of these plants. All right, I feel like I need some darker bits of shadow in this area here. I do like how it gets lighter as it gets further away from the tree. I'm gonna leave some of the darker passages, but I wanna lighten this up so that it looks like you can actually see into the shadow. I'm gonna soften some of these edges here. Okay, for the roof, I'm using titanium white with ultramarine blue. This portion of the wall here is going to be a warmer white, and this one is going to be a cooler one. It appears that it's reflecting the sky. It's kind of a metal roof, like a corrugated tin roof. I do want to leave some of the orange as well from the sketch. All right, I've mixed up a warm white using cadmium yellow medium and titanium white. I want to leave some of the orange in here as well. This wall kind of slopes down. I want to make sure that like I said, I want to make sure that I'm capturing the rickety nature of the building. Okay, and I want to have some warmer, loaded passages in here. I want to reinforce the darks in these plants here. Just have a bit more dark in here. All right, so here's what I finished up with. I don't think I mentioned this is a 12 by 16 inch panel. It took me about an hour to complete. It was finished on location. I haven't done any touch-ups or anything. The primary goal with this painting was to create a convincing feeling of light. And I do feel like the light does seem convincing. It does seem authentic. One of the things I did to create that feeling was to exaggerate the warm-cool relationship. So I did push the saturation in particular in the grass here. The yellows kind of exaggerated that, and then also warmed up even the gray gravel path. I warmed that up, and then pushed the blues, and they're kind of purpley blues, in the shadows as well. So by exaggerating those colors, I feel that it does make for a more convincing feeling of light. One other thing I try to do when painting shadows is make sure that I don't paint them too dark. If you paint from a photograph, oftentimes the shadows will be very dark because the camera exaggerates the contrast. But when you're painting in plein air, you have the advantage of being able to look into the shadows for a variety of shifts in value and temperature. I often have to remind myself that light actually is a subject. It's a worthy subject. And it's something that I think we're all attracted to, even though it may be on a subconscious level. I think if you look at a painting and it has an authentic feeling of light, it's going to affect you in a way that is very primal, maybe. I think that light in a painting is almost like the music in a movie. It dictates the emotional impact of the scene. So if the light is authentic, I think it can have a profound effect on the viewer. And so anyway, it's something that I always try to remind myself, that just painting light is a worthy subject to pursue. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to see some extra videos and help support the channel, there's a Patreon link down below. It is a Patreon support that helps keep me making these videos, and it's much appreciated. So if you're interested, link below, check it out. Other than that, stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next video.